Exactly. We were not following the typical feminist model, feminist norm.
Where you virtue signal all day, but then help take folks to rape rooms.
Yeah, no, not like some of these other people here who I have, suspicions about. Meryl Streep and Madonna and some of these other women who claim that they're feminists, claim that they're for
Meryl Streep does standing ovations for Polanski saying he did nothing wrong and should be allowed out of prison for raping a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah. And that's because they're all covering for these Hollywood predators, these demonic, filthy scum that are out there abusing women. But it's bad. You have a concentrated level of talent and beauty all coming to Hollywood. So what are you going to have? A concentrated level of predators. They all magnetize there. And so then you have all these girls being taken advantage of, and then they come out with a bad taste of men in general. And that's what it seems like the media is trying to do in hijacking these celebrity women's abuses by telling all women that, see, this is all a problem of masculinity. It's all men's fault. Men are the bad guys in general. When in reality, you have a handful of predatory type men out there. And what needs to happen with the real men out there, the good-hearted men out there, they need to, instead of saying, oh, well, okay, and try to disinvalidate it by saying, these women, maybe they were asking for it, maybe they're trading for their career or whatever. No, the real men need to say, you know what? We're going to take on these women's plight. We're going to fight these predatory, disgusting.
And then that way the leftists can't be the gatekeepers, just like they control the environmental movement but want to tax carbon dioxide, but ignore genetic engineering, atmospheric manipulation, nuclear reactors leaking. They always want to lead the movements so that they can control them because obviously it's like the missing children groups, It turns out, keep getting run by pedophiles. Or, it's like the cancer research groups are actually run by the drug makers who don't want you to have a cure.
The globalists want to divide the sexes. They do not want people having traditional marriages. They don't want men and women getting along, raising productive members of society. They don't want that. So what are they doing? They're having these predatory type men get away with it, sexually abusing and assaulting women. And then if you can convince the other general population of men to say, oh, well, she asked for it because they're attacking masculinity as a whole, the feminists are, then what happens? The feminists decide, well, we'll take up your plight, we'll take up your cause. And it needs to be said right now. We need real men coming and saying, you know what? These women were abused, and we're going to come after the scum out there in Hollywood, the Harvey Weinsteins, the disgusting types out there, because we know they do not represent masculinity. And they represent weakness.
And we hear on that Weinstein tape, he isn't even trying to make her feel good or get her in bed. He wants to humiliate her, watching this disgusting blob shower. And obviously, the other things he does, there are things I'm not going to mention here. It's about humiliating gorgeous, beautiful women.
Exactly.
I'm not going to get into the things they do, but obviously what's come out in Hollywood is these guys are so degenerate. It's not sex with these gorgeous women. It's making them do degrading things.
And these are the beta males. These are the guys who women naturally wouldn't be magnetized to. And then meanwhile, you have all these alpha males out there in society who aren't preying on women, who aren't trying to get in these positions of power to do these things. And those are the men that women need to come and help them, essentially. So
and that is what it is. Modern culture creates these cults of betas who are then twisted and seek after power, but it's always really twisted versions of it. I mean, making, beautiful women basically get on the ground like a dog and eat crap. That's the kind of things reportedly Mr. Weinstein's into.
Exactly. Exactly. If you want to take down feminism, because feminism is vile, it's repulsive, it's all about man-hating, and I will not stand for it.
And it's all about weird technocrat women controlling women.
Exactly.
As if you don't have a husband that's there to defend you and you help him, the state's your husband.
Exactly. The women are forced to go to these feminist women that hate men for help rather than going to the real men in society, the men that can actually stand up and say, we're going to come after the Harvey Weinsteins. We're going to come after these sick predators that want to do this to women.
We're going to play some of that tape when we come back. And I know I want to be careful because I know your story and your report and your sisters. But if you want to, without getting into names, talk about just what really happens in Hollywood when you were even underage, just so people get an idea of imagining women out there luring young girls in, just like they use women or children to lure folks into the ice cream truck, and then you're never seen again. I mean, that's what Hollywood is. That's what Nickelodeon is. That's what MTV is. It's all a big lure to sexualize and get your children. And that's why the left hates me so much, because a large portion of them are now fellow travelers on board. A larger percentage than I thought actually like all this because they're all so beta and so cucked. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're running the big who are watching a stream online at infowars.com/show and on some cable and TV stations around the country, but describing it for radio listeners, we'll go over it. But, Millie, before we get into your story and what happened to you and what it's like to now see this breaking as Hollywood implodes, as the snake eats itself, as this thing begins to crumble, as the rats try to leave the sinking ship, what about the deeper stuff, the devil worship, the pedophilia? I mean, you were underage when some of this happened to you, but I wouldn't call it classical pedophilia if you're 16 or whatever. But what about the occult? Did you ever run into that in Hollywood?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. I had been exploited when I was underage by a prominent mogul in Hollywood. I won't say names. And once you're in that loop, you have people surrounding you, basically making sure that you're in their circle, in their network. And so I was surrounded by big-time producers, big names. My sister and I, we had record deals on the table, and all these people that were surrounding us. It wasn't until years into associating with these people. I mean, these are the Grammy Awards. I was at the Grammys. I was at the Academy Awards, a bunch of different things. And I was being groomed essentially to be inducted into the Hollywood celebrity circle. And
we now know that's what Disney did. Most of these big stars, male and female, are primed right through being sexually abused many times by the time they're 6 or 7 years old. And then they're even rehiring directors that raped little kids. Disney does.
Yeah. And, one of the producers that I was working with, records Carrie Underwood, Selena Gomez, big time multi-millionaire producer, records for Disney. Did a bunch of soundtracks for 300 and all.
In fact, as we have a new audience every minute, guys, pull up the article about the famous director that raped the 12-year-old boy and still got hired by Disney. That broke last week. I'm going to put that on screen. Go ahead.
So essentially what happened was right when you get to the precipice, right when you're about to sign your contract, about to sign your movie deal, that's when they start revealing what they are, who they're affiliated, what they're about. And that's when they start telling me about their OTO affiliations, Illuminati, drinking blood, a bunch of stuff.
And just to be clear, with your contacts, you were able to get in the Getty Center that nobody can. Exactly. They got video of actual manuscripts of child sacrifice that are 500 years old that we premiered here. I mean, with you and your contacts, you guys actually got in there. Nobody's ever gotten that out.
Yeah, and my sister, actually, she was invited to one of these rituals, and she went, and she said she saw basically a big, fat woman sitting up and dancing up on a stage naked, and they had a guy dressed like Jesus sitting in a chair throne, and they were essentially enacting a ritual where this big, fat, naked woman was this... what is it? The
goddess.
Yeah, the goddess. And she was trying to seduce, and she seduced and kissed the guy that was looking like Jesus. And then they all took a communion to it.
And that's just entry-level blasphemy.
That's entry-level, yes. And then once I started realizing, oh my gosh, these people, what am I getting into? And I wanted to get away from that. That's when it all broke loose. I started being gang harassed, stalked, threatened. Gavin helped me get away from them. I met him totally separate from these people, and they freaked out, and we were gang stalked. We were harassed. They charged false charges against him for saying that he harassed them when they called him and made death threats toward him. It was as though the courts, everything were just interlaced with these corrupt people. It's disgusting how bad it is in Hollywood. And sorry, it's hard for me to say all of this just because it brings back a lot of memories.
Well, you're doing a great job. You're strong. It was hard for me to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I'm a guy and I kind of just sloughed it off and thought it was weird. Said, hey, watch it. I'm going to knock you upside the head. And then they were like going, ha, 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 like they're guys. But, I mean, I've had producers just you're in a meeting, they just reach over and grab your genitals. It's just an act of domination.
Well, the worst part was, after this big Hollywood person, celebrity, had, sexually abused me.
How old were you then?
I was 17. I just turned 17 at the time. But that's when my mom reached out to some attorneys and tried to, and then you find out that these attorneys that are women that say that they're feminists aren't really out to help women. And that's the hardest part, is the realization. And that kind of red-pilled me in a big way to realize how vile these feminist women are that say that they're helping women, and really they're out there just kind of protecting and being handlers and damage control for some of these bigwigs. It's really disheartening, you know, and that's why I say we need more women to come forward, and as well as men, because there were child actors like Corey Feldman, Corey Haim. There are much more than are willing to be brave enough to come out against. And
Corey Feldman is hinting at naming Hollywood pedophiles. I mean, the word is, you heard it here first, folks, in the last few months. The pedophile scandal is about to break, and then the Weinstein comes out after that. So I really think, I'm not defending Weinstein, it's terrible, but they've allowed this to come out in the New Yorker after the New York Times and NBC spiked it back in 2004 and 2009 because they want to use all this to smokescreen the pedophilia.
Exactly. And then we have these feminists now out there in the media, which enrages me, taking this on as their champion, their plight, their, oh, this is all men, this is all masculinity, we need to all like whip these men into submission. That's what the feminists say. And it's disgusting because in reality, what we need is real men to stand up and come after these predatory types, because these women who are out there saying this, pushing this MO, they're part of the globalists, they're part of the elites. It's all part of this divide and conquer strategy where they want to divide men and women so we don't have marriages, we stop having as many children, we stop having successful, moral...
And by the way, that's in all the government documents. That's in the Tavistock, that's in the CIA, it's all been declassified, mainstream news, and they've done it.
You know, and it kind of reminds me of this story that Gavin told me about his grandpa and how times used to be versus how they are now. You know, they're putting all these chemicals in the water to try and lower sperm counts. But, you know, I want to talk about his grandpa. Apparently, one of their neighbors kept beating his wife, okay? And the men kept finding out, and Gavin's grandpa kept finding out through the wives. The wives would keep complaining, you know, this guy, he keeps beating our friend so-and-so, he's beating his wife. And you know what they did? They went over there with guns and they beat him up and said, if you ever put your hand on this woman again, we will mess you up bad. And you know what? He stopped, and the women stopped complaining. Their wives stopped complaining, and they didn't need feminism.
Because men acted like men.
Men acted like men. And nowadays, it's like the guy's beating up the women are all hearing the other women complain, and the men aren't doing anything. So what do? They go to the feminists who are going to try to demonize all men.
Who are actually more like madams who want to control women. I've been around some famous feminists, and they, even though they're old women, they actually hit on you. I mean, I'll just say it because they put Joy Behar image on Twitter grabbing a man's genitals without asking. I mean, she didn't do that, but I was on CNN with her, too, not just The View. And she's like, you're a good-looking young man. Hey, I'll tell you, how long are you in New York? And she didn't go all the way, but it was like the famous madam in the movie, like, hey, baby, why don't you come up here and see me sometime? And for an older woman, I mean, she was definitely putting it on and wasn't joking. Well, I'm not going to say arrest her because she grabbed a guy's genitals. You know, the point is, the next time he said stop, though, then it would be rape if she continued. But it just shows what a bunch of hypocrites they are.
Exactly. And I have actually met and been told about and was in circles with people who are like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. She's a madam. And the madams have tried to come and talk.
And again, you got a lot of women that, again, just have that madam spirit as well for the powerful men. We're going to go to break, come back with more. Just briefly, folks, if you don't financially support but soon learned that it was a nightmare, just in the last minute and a half break, you were talking about some of the cost of your friends and people that died, that went to mental institutions, just at the hands of one individual. Yes. And it wasn't just older men when you were underage that, you know, groomed you and that were having sex. It was, you were telling me, also being raped. So tell us about some of that. Yeah, so basically we were kind of being damage controlled, handled, I guess, by some big name Hollywood managers and producers. And it turns out, I found out later that one of these producers was in association with the mogul that had assaulted me, and apparently he also managed for a while these girls that were twins, that one of the twins was assaulted by that guy when she was about 16. She was actually raped, and those twins ended up, one of them, she jumped mysteriously out of a condo high-rise on cocaine and died, and her sister wound up being in a mental hospital. And basically, it's really, you know, they kind of have just disappeared altogether off the map. And so I was wondering, in my mind, that kind of terrified me at the time, is that what's going to happen to me?
or
well, think about this.
If I didn't join their group, join the occult, that's what the offer was being put forward to me on the table. If I said no, was I going to wind up like those girls? And that's when I tried to go to the authorities, get help, and the gang stalking and all of that stuff was tremendous. I had severe anxiety. It was horrible.
And you were just there a few years. As this all begins to come out, you were downtown this week on Congress and did a report, and a lot of people were oblivious, or they thought Hollywood was only about, you know, feminism or guys being pushy. I mean, you can really see how they're obscuring what's really going on just by focusing on guys that are borderline assaulting women, which I think is terrible. You know, we talked about this weeks ago, saying that's where it's going, and you talk to the trendies, and they just don't seem to have any idea what's going on.
Hollywood is a satanic mafia-run town, an industry. And so why do we have these women only now after all of these years coming forward? Well, I think it's partially because of the fact that Harvey Weinstein is coming under fire and he's likely to be prosecuted. Maybe they feel safer. Maybe they feel like there's more of an alternative media that they can rely on in covering and exposing what their statements are. But I feel like their statements have been way underreported in the mainstream media.
I also noticed in your Person on the Street report, the women particularly, just 10 years ago, would want to be on TV. Now they're all looking at their own phones. It's made them so insular or so inward looking. But in a way, that's good. People don't even like reporters or Hollywood anymore. Used to, folks would jump to be on TV. Now they don't. I mean, this is really the collapse of mainstream media. But I noticed your frustration as well. They also didn't want to be on TV about something serious. Some of the pop stuff on the internet's made it where it's all just, you know, mindless stuff. And that's the stuff that YouTube pushes, not the serious topics.
Well, the frustration there was that it seemed like hardly anybody had heard about these celebrities coming out about sex abuse. And I'm asking them, you know, did you hear about the Hollywood sex abuse scandals? And they're all like, no, no, no. And then finally, some of them, when I mentioned Harvey Weinstein, they said, oh, you know, I think I saw something about that on social media. Well, but none of them said they saw it on TV or your report, on mainstream media.
Your report was very important. We ought to take this clip talking about it, put it on the front, and put it back out, but with a headline like, Libtards not aware of Hollywood sex scandal. And then just point, and then it'll get 5 million views like your last video. You'll do a super video and it's like 50,000 views, and the other one you did. But the last video did has like 5 million views now, the one before that, where you took on Eminem, so great job. Millie Weaver, I appreciate your courage. Let's talk more about this on the War Room coming up. If there's some time, we can do a whole hour on this. Thanks for...
Try to have a little fun talking about Mooch Michael Obama's codpiece. But then you're reminded how sick and twisted it really is, folks. Satanic-looking drag queen with horns reads to little kids at Michelle Obama Public Library in Long Beach. This is beyond twisted. This is beyond weird. This is beyond sick. This is quite literally a satanic ritual. There's the picture of quote-unquote Zuchi Moochie, a transsexual that read to children at Michelle Obama's library today. Now, most of our audience is on the radio. So basically this transsexual, I guess, man turned woman, I really don't know. It's G. What are we supposed to call these people so we don't go to jail? G is wearing a dress and some fine jewelry. It looks like a cape or gown or something. Some crazy red hair. But the strange part here, the strange part, the whole thing is strange. The strangest part is caked on makeup on the face to look demonic, and then 5 horns coming out of the head. So a literal headdress with horns, caked on with makeup, transsexual crossdresser is reading to children at the Michelle Obama Library in Long Beach, California. Zuchi Moochie. Now, here's the flyer. LGBTQ History Month at Michelle Obama Neighborhood Library. Why do you think Michelle Obama is having this at her library, folks? It's transsexual. Okay, that's a man. Or it was a man. No, it is a man. Michael Obama. So Michael Obama Now Michelle Obama hosts LGBTQ History Month at her library because that's the community that her and her husband are a part of. There's nothing wrong with that. If Barack and Michelle are, in that community, that's perfectly fine. I have no problem with that. But to bring this, they even call it, look at this, Drag Queen Story Hour featuring Zuchi Moochie. Zuchi Moochie. Where do you find Zuchi Moochie? Zuchi Moochie, the drag queen who dressed as a demon, posted the same photo to his, her, his Instagram account and commented on Twitter about the event. The bio reads, "Attention Earthlings, this is Zuchi Moochie, your resident killer clown from outer space. I dress up in drag and love tacos." Okay. Zuchi Moochie tweeted, "I got to read to the children today, and it was one of the best experiences I've been given as a, killer clown?" And then someone tweets, "Viva la Ames." I think I follow her on Twitter. "Yeah, that wouldn't give kids nightmares." Zuchi Moochie responds, "You should have been there. The excitement in the children's eyes was everything." And then a kissy face. Church of Satan. Hail Satan. That's nice. Omar Navarro, he's running against Maxine Waters in California, tweets out in response to the Zuchi Moochie demon, "What are we teaching kids in school? Demonic teachings alive in Long Beach. I'm outraged they would allow this." Well, yeah, I mean, anybody left with a brain would be outraged they allow this. Pull up Zuchi Moochie's Twitter real quick, guys. Or pull up Michelle Obama's codpiece. Either one. It really doesn't matter. This is all you need to know, okay? Michelle Obama hosting the LGBTQ day because she's part of that community as a transsexual, and then has a cross-dressing demon speak to kids at her library. Why do you have a cross-dressing demon speaking to kids? Is that normal?
Coming back here live, big fourth hour Alex Jones show here on InfoWars. Jack Posobiec sitting in. We have so much we want to break down. There's so much that I want to get into. But first things first is that I understand that back at our flagship, see, I'm coming out live from Washington, D.C., but back at the flagship, at the mothership in Austin, Owen Schroyer is still there. Owen, you still there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why Michelle Obama had a cross-dressing demon speak to kids at her library today. I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm not sure because, see, the last time that I came down to Austin, you were down in Rio, so I wasn't sure if that was something that you brought back with you. You may have summoned that from Carnival and had that demon follow you back into the country.
No, I was not at Carnival. That is yet to happen down there in Brazil. A little bit of culture for the people.
Me fake news?
Well, it's just ridiculous because that's something that they would say, "Oh, look at the crazy rhetoric that comes out of InfoWars. They're claiming a satanic drag queen dressed like a demon is speaking to kids. Like that's just some crazed rhetoric." No, the Long Beach Public Library, Michelle Obama's library, put it on Facebook themselves, so they're proud of this.
And see, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw that, I thought surely this is some kind of Halloween, costume kind of thing, and it has something to do with that. And then as I read, I said, "Oh, this is being considered as normal. This is considered normalized for children that they should attend and view someone like this in front of our kids." And again, nobody's saying that it's necessarily illegal, but or anything like that. But should we be raising our kids with this type of thing being put in their faces every day instead of actually just promoting literacy? I mean, I remember reading Curious George and we can't read that Dr. Seuss anymore, right? So they took away Dr. Seuss and they've replaced Dr. Seuss with what is their name again?
Giz's name is let's get this right here. Zuchi Moochie.
Zuchi Moochie.
Zuchi
okay,
Moochie.
So
there she is. He is.
So we
whatever.
replaced, no more Dr. Seuss, but we've replaced Dr. Seuss with Zuchi Moochie for our children. And this is how kids want to get raised in our country. She only has 866 followers. Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad.
I'm just confused here again, because I'm a libertarian. I don't care. Whatever you want to do with yourself, you know, whatever you want to do when you're considering
Don't get me wrong.
But we have to just ask ourselves the question, why are we having drag queen story hour at the Michelle Obama library? And then why is she clearly dressing up as a demon and trying to corrupt these young children's minds?
Yeah, this is the type of thing that really begs a lot of questions, you know, and it's crazy because people will call Alex and call ourselves conspiracy theorists and every name under the sun for talking about how this stuff goes on. And I'm going to talk to a guest coming up here at 3:30 about the Hollywood culture and about how we have been talking about these things for years at this point. And now when it all comes true, now that we have the power of social media, we can share these pictures and videos breaking as fast as it happens. They can't cover it up anymore. They can't cover up the crimes like Harvey Weinstein anymore. And this is one of those things where they're saying it's an open secret. Everybody knew about it. Well, and we've been the ones that have been sounding the bell since for years that this sort of stuff was going on in our country and in our culture, because there's a second layer to all this stuff. Yeah, we're reporting it, but we also want to ask the question, and that's why I love InfoWars, is because InfoWars will ask the question, is this the right direction for our society?
Yeah, someone needs to at least bring this to the attention of parents that may be sending their kids to the library while this is going on. I mean, okay, do you want your kids to be sexualized by a drag queen and a transsexual? That depends if you want to follow Michelle Obama or not. But this is just strange, Zuchi Moochie, and again, it lends to everything we've been talking about, how they want to sexualize the children. They want to bring this demonized culture, like literally satanic culture, into the mainstream, have it at public libraries, and just pass it off as normal, accepted. This is just the norm now.
Yeah, and you look what they do, Owen. You look at how they go after our institutions and our traditions. They go after things like Dr. Seuss. They go after things like standing up for the American flag and showing patriotism at an NFL games. They go after our sports. They go after our athletics. They look to take down everything that makes America America, and then you see the type of things that they want to replace it with, the type of stuff that they want to supplant it with. And they also know that by using something that's so admittedly triggering to a lot of people is that there's going to be discussion about it, and then they can say if anybody says there's something wrong with it, they're going to decry you as transphobic or not being tolerant of alternate lifestyle choices. When nobody's saying anything like that, what we're saying is this really the best sociological decision for raising our children and for teaching kids literacy?
And most people,
supposed to be the point of children's library.
Right. No. Going to the library isn't about reading. Just look at the new Obama library. There's no books. So yeah, it's not about teaching you how to read. It's about teaching you how to be a sexual deviant. But regardless, I have no problem personally with Zuchi Moochie. I don't know of him. So here's what I'm going to say as Jack Posobiec's about to take over the 4th hour. And I always tell my crew to do this, and I hope they follow through. Try to get Zuchi Moochie on. I want to interview.
Let's get Zuchi Moochie on the show.
I want to interview Zuchi Moochie. Let's reach out to Zuchi Moochie. Let's try to get Zuchi Moochie on the show. Let's talk to them about whatever this whole drag queen story hour is about. And let's just get to the bottom of it. So reach out to Zuchi Moochie crew. Somebody reach out. And look, I know that they usually don't respond and don't come on. I get it. But we can't say we reached out unless we actually do it. So reach out.
It will not be a gotcha interview. No. Be like a combative kind of edited thing.
Wear your demonic headdress. I don't care.
And we will give you a platform to explain what your background is and who you are to the people.
Right? Because you adopt. How many did I adopt? I kill my kids.